the movement. Tomorrow belongs to God. Nothing can break me, nothing can bend me, nothing can bring me down.
Additional value to our esteemed stakeholders. Please be rest assured, as always, that the recommendations emerging from this important event will be formulated into a communique which will be circulated to all major stakeholders in the economy to influence policy at the national level. And let me tell you to this thought-provoking event, I wish you an enlightening and productive session. Thank you so much and God bless.
That is being driven by Overseas Development Institute of UK. That's one. Then McKinsey is a very popular consultancy, we all know the name. They came out with a survey report recently that instead of looking at poverty from the perspective of countries, now we can look at it from the perspective of communities. So they broke the entire world into 40,000 communities. And then that study revealed that there are poverty pockets everywhere in the world. So that it is a misnomer to label any country as poverty center. Ukraine, largely, and of course Russia. We also realize that Russia is a key factor in the manufacturing of automobiles because there is a particular precious metal called palladium that is solely exported by Russia. We now began to see that, of course, to the Europeans, Russia is the basic source of energy. So all that Russia needed to do was to close the tap, and then Europe will begin to suffer. So we profiled the implications of all that, which we now see as energy crisis. We talked about inflation. We also looked back at the pandemic, which is the second global disruption. And we said that yes, when the pandemic happened, many countries went, their economies went. What most countries do is they don't complain about borrowing, they look at what they have done with it. So if a lot of our borrowings went to deliver the infrastructures we are talking about, how about aviation sector, the terminal buildings? How about even the power sector? I was privileged to look at the budget of one of the distribution companies. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered that all their capital budget for last year, 2022, was to be funded by the federal government of Nigeria. But they will never tell you. Because I had to address their management at their retreat, so they had to open their documents to me. That was where I saw it. So a lot of what you see around in the power sector, in terms of transformers and the rest of it, are actually being funded by the federal government of Nigeria. And the same people will still come out and say the government has borrowed too much. So that's why I said, as an economist, I'm not worried that you borrowed. I'm worried only when I see what you borrowed for. Okay, what did you do with it? I was in Frankfurt some 2 years ago, if I less than 2 years ago. We no longer talk about orthodox monetary policy tools. We talk about pragmatism. So when people say central bank is doing this, why should they? I say it's very simple. What should the central bank do? They say CIBN is defending the naira. I say, what else should they do? They shouldn't defend that. They should defend the dollar. Every central bank governor anywhere in the world is charged primarily with two things. The value of the currency domestically, that was inflation. We call it inflation targeting in central banking language. The second thing is the exchange value of the currency. So CBN will use both orthodox and unorthodox tools to do any of those two. That is what is happening all over the world.
Now, for example, the agri sector, which for us as an institution, maybe I'm dragging it into here, we have a very robust agri business. One of the things that we've seen in prior years, we realized that banks did not have full grasp of the sectors in which customers were playing, but that has over time changed.
I want to speak, for instance, to collection of voters' cards. You have voters, people are queuing in their millions, they want to vote, but they can't get their cards. And from a system point of view, I'm looking at it that, wait a minute, why do we need voters' card in the first place? Do you need voters' cards to be able to vote? And my answer is no. And I still believe that can happen between now and the next 40 days. Why am I saying so? Today, we are all familiar with our ATM cards. You use it when there's a POS. If you want to buy online, you key in the number and it gives the same access. The same thing. INEC, if they really want to do it, it's just a few days' work at most, to be able to allow people whose names are on the register, people who have the reference number, key in the reference number, it brings up all his details. You verify his identity, which is the same thing that the card is supposed to achieve. If you're able to do that, you'll be able to get more of the 93 million on the voters register to participate in the election. When the government comes into power, that government comes in with the confidence that it has a mandate of the populace. That government is in a better position to take some very hard decisions that need to be taken, such as fuel subsidy has to go.